Today's show is brought to you by Love Pop. Unlock special pricing for 5 or more Love Pop cards and get free shipping on any order by going to lovepop.com/gems. Welcome to the Genealogy Gems podcast. It's a show filled with family history research strategies and techniques, news and entertainment, and inspiration. And I'm your host, Louise Cooke. Hello and welcome to Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 212. This is December of 2017, and I am finally sitting down to the microphone. We've spent the whole morning putting up the Christmas tree and all the decorations in the house, and don't you love that? Don't you love going through those boxes and pulling out the ornaments that, my gosh, cover over 30 years of our lives here in the Cook house? I even have old ornaments. I didn't realize I still had these, but they're from Bill's grandma. It really shows you a difference in the times, doesn't it? Because she had little acorns that you could tell she'd done little craft projects. And she had put a little piece of cording on the top and some glitter on it that's still on there. And I think she had spray painted gold the walnuts and made these little ornaments. And there's also little felt ones, where she had sewn them together in little stars and then put the sequins on them. I mean, they're just precious. And they're really a great example of how you can celebrate Christmas no matter what you have. And I know they didn't have a lot in their early years of their marriage, early in the 20th century, and how fabulous to still have these to get today. It's really neat. And over time, she collected more. I've got a little set of angel glass ornaments that she got later in life, and I know were precious to her, so I've got those on my mantle too. And this year also, we are celebrating baby's first Christmas. It's Miss Emily's Christmas this year. She's, 3.5, 4 months old now. And she's going to have her first Christmas. I got her one of those little, it's an adorable dress. I think you might have seen a picture of the dress if you follow me on Instagram. Maybe I put it on Facebook too. And it's from Janie and Jack. And it's this adorable white dress with the red roses. And it even had a little fur shawl thing. But it's too warm in Texas to put that on. But it had the little crinoline skirt. And I got her the little red patent leather shoes. And she's just adorable. It's so fun to have a girl in the house. Another girl in the house after having 3 of my own. It's fun to break out the girl stuff again. So Shasha's having some fun this Christmas. I did realize, though, as I pulled the decorations out and all of the old family ornaments and things, that I haven't made her a stocking yet for our house. We have a stocking for each person in our family. And I know that if you have been to our YouTube channel over the years, you have seen the videos that I did on the stocking that I made for myself. After all these years of cross-stitching meticulously stockings for my daughters, I made one for myself, and it's a quilted stocking with the pictures of all the different female ancestors. All the grandmas and great-grandmas in my family tree are all on the little patches of my crazy quilt stocking. Is what we call it, a crazy quilt style. But I need to make one for Miss Emily, so I'm going to have to think about this. Maybe I'll have to make something similar for her. But I better get busy because it is December 3rd as I'm recording today, and I've got lots to do. But at least the decorations are up, and I hope that whatever holidays you celebrate this season, that you're having a wonderful time. Kind of going back over the old family memories as you pull out your decorations. It's awfully fun. In this episode, we are going to talk about all kinds of things. We've got Contributing Editor Sunny Morton. She's going to be here to share some insights on how to make meaningful memories out of our fleeting scraps of recollections. And it's so true that we all have little bits and pieces of memories, things, we wish we'd written down or recorded back in the time to get the full story. But you can kind of knit these together in a very meaningful way. And Sunny's going to talk to you about that today. And in keeping with this theme about our personal stories, I'm going to share with you an item that our newest blogger, Margaret Linford, wrote. And she tells us about how she got started in family history And I want to read this to you because it's inspiring. And like so many of our best stories, it's not just about her, but it's about someone who really inspired her. And lots of news in the genealogy world to cover, as 2017 was kind of the year of DNA, was it not? I've invited Diahan Southard to look back at our progress with a special DNA news digest, kind of a year in review for DNA today. And finding missing ancestors, we've got tips and success stories from many of you Genealogy Gems fans out there. All right, well, let's talk about some of the news. Now, one of the items is WikiTree. They came out with their new honor code, and Sonny Morton is here to talk about that.
Hello, Lisa. Thanks for having me today. So I have good news, which is always great. Something I'm excited about with WikiTree is their recent announcement that over 100,000 people have now signed their honor code. Did you know they have an honor code?
Well, I'd heard talk about it when they first kind of started this idea. Tell everybody who's listening what this is and what generated it. What started all this?
Sure. So WikiTree, wikitree.com, wikitree.com is what I'm talking about. And WikiTree is sort of like, well, if you think of Wikipedia, for example, it's an online collaborative encyclopedia that everybody contributes what they know to it. And WikiTree sort of started off on that model, the idea that everybody contributes what they know about to one single global family tree. So you're not each individually planting your own family tree and saying, everyone, keep your hands off it. This is my tree and don't change it. And that's what we do on some of our giant genealogy websites. But on WikiTree, it's a collaborative model so that whenever you share an ancestor in common with someone else, there's one single profile, ideally, for that single ancestor. And everybody contributes to that single profile. And so that really forces us to collaborate and communicate, which can be a really uncomfortable thing to do. I think that it's taken a while for our global community to really find a comfort zone with this kind of collaborative work, but it's really grown.
That's true, because so many of us, we all started pretty much by ourselves, right? Individually. And then the internet comes and kind of opens up the floodgates of collaboration, which is great. And WikiTree isn't really in our genealogy giants group that you typically talk about, which of course are the four big ones. And those not only have trees, but they have records. WikiTree is more focused on just the tree, but it really kind of steps up and not challenges, that's not really the right word, but it compares nicely with perhaps FamilySearch, which has also a collaborative global tree. But I imagine when you get that many people working together on one tree, then that creates some issues. And I'm guessing that's where this honor code comes from.
Yes, that's where the honor code comes in. So now, I'm not sure exactly when it started because I don't know the history of WikiTree that well, but now it's required that if you're going to be an active contributor on WikiTree, that you sign an honor code. And the honor code talks about things like, we're going to be open collaborators, all of us. We're going to respect each other's work and give it credit where credit is due. So when other researchers have done the research that you're sharing, you'll credit them, but you'll also respect copyright, other people's copyrighted materials. You'll respect other people's privacy and other families' privacy when that's requested. You'll cite your sources. You'll be nice to each other. You'll be civil when you need to disagree. They have a little policy on disagreements and how those are handled. So it really just provides some guidelines for how people interact on the tree so that, you want your family tree to be a happy place where people are glad to encounter each other rather than where you're sort of nitpicking or fighting over, well, this thing is right or this piece of information I found is right, because many of us will find different pieces of information and we're very used to being protective of what we know versus what other people might say that's not supported by evidence. That's one of the first things we learn with online genealogy is everyone else's tree is suspect, right?
Yes, exactly.
So WikiTree has worked really hard to create an environment that is both friendly for collaboration, but also very respectful and also very responsible, because when you're required to cite your sources about how you know a particular piece of information, then the information you provide is more credible, it's more powerful. And when you multiply that by the nearly 16 million ancestral profiles now on WikiTree, that's a lot of really good research as people are starting to add the source citations. Over 3 million of these even have DNA test connections with them. So you've got a really powerful and growing and organized body of information about millions of people on our global family tree.
Now, you've thrown a pretty large number out there. How does this stack up against one of the genealogy giants, which is FamilySearch, which is probably the most comparable because, again, it's that one tree that everybody's contributing to. How does it stack up in terms of records, and are there any major differences between the features of those two different trees?
Okay, so I spend more time working on the FamilySearch tree. I love our genealogy giant websites, and I spend a lot of time there. So I have not invested as much in WikiTree. What I can tell you about the FamilySearch family tree, because that's what they call it when you participate in the FamilySearch family tree, it is also a global tree experience. And that's why we're talking about it now. As you said, it's unique from the other genealogy giants, from Ancestry.com, Find My Past, and MyHeritage, which do not have this shared tree environment. Over at FamilySearch, you've got nearly 4.5 million people who have contributed to that global family tree over there. That compares to about 473,000 who have contributed at the WikiTree. So it's a much larger universe over at FamilySearch, which may not matter if your branch of the family is in one place or the other. It doesn't matter what the totals are, right? So you want to check both of them and see. I mentioned that the WikiTree has nearly 16 million profiles in it. And then if we're going to make a direct comparison over at FamilySearch, the FamilySearch tree now has over 1 billion names on it, ancestral profiles on it, 1.14 billion as of today by those 4.4 million contributors. And they've also added, and I didn't see this number here over at WikiTree. Let me see if I've got that there. No, what I can tell you is over at FamilySearch, about 836 million sources have been added to those 1.14 billion names. These are a lot of numbers, and we'll put them in the show notes so that you're not going a little number crazy. But my point in sharing how many hundreds of millions of sources has been shared on this tree is the idea is that we're creating a large body of collaborative evidence here that's submitted from lots of different places. We've done research and we all research in different places and have access to different sources. So sometimes I'm going to find some records that are here local where an ancestor lived during those 10 years of her life. And maybe another descendant lives in the place where she died later on, and she's got better local records relating to the end of her life. So the idea is we put them all together.
Exactly. And they provide those leads. Now, I notice as I go over to one of the genealogy giants, which is myheritage.com, they have family trees, but you can tap into WikiTree results on their search as well.
And Genie.com also. Genie.com is another one of these online global tree communities. That's also one that you can use. So GENI.com. And you can get search results from MyHeritage. When you do a search on MyHeritage, you can find search results for your ancestors who show up in historical records, but also in the family trees, the individual family trees that are built on MyHeritage, but also, as you said, at some of these, the FamilySearch family tree shows up in MyHeritage search results also. So you can search more than one of these global trees that are on other sites, all from MyHeritage. That's a nice perk of searching there.
Sure. And it's interesting because each site has its own search engine and its own capabilities. We know that when we search for the same thing in different locations, we oftentimes can find something a little different at each one or something additional. In fact, you could go to google.com and you could type in a name. In fact, I just did it now. I typed in Burkett, who is the gentleman in the Genealogy Gems podcast logo, my great-great-grandfather. And then I did in Google site, SITE, WikiTree.com. And I got all of the results that have those parts of his name in in that part of the tree. So lots of different ways to access it, and really nice to know that the information that you're accessing is now coming from people who have signed this honor code, which I think the more we work together, as you said, that it's really nice to see some kind of agreed upon guidelines on behavior and honor and kind of the ethics of working together on this global tree. Sonny, this is terrific, and I know you've got lots of info for us in the show notes, right?
I do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the update.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
There's also news from FAMICITY. Remember when I talked about FAMICITY earlier here in 2017? They have an app, and they have recently put out a press release. They kind of went back into the workshop and did some more tooling of the app. And they have some new updates that they were excited to share with us. Now, FAMICITY gives you a place to share your stories and your photos and all kinds of things in the family tree. And since it launched earlier this year, they have been investing in really strong relationships with some very key partners in the genealogy space to help make a significant contribution to the growth of preserving old and new memories online. You can take advantage of the GEDCOM import feature now. This was something that we knew that they needed, and it is here. Of course, our GEDCOM is that universal family tree file that can be created by your genealogy software. And the beauty of the GEDCOM, because it is not unique to the program that you put all your data into, when you export it out, you can put it into all other types of websites and programs to be able to use that data. And because it's such a universal format, you can bring it into other programs and other websites. And that makes it really nice to be able to use your data, even though it came out of a specific program. Well, genealogist and historian Dr. Nick Barrett from the UK commented, he says, "I've worked with many genealogy sites over the years, but I'm very excited about the launch of FAMICITY as it truly helps users record and preserve memories in the most efficient way for everyone, and not just expert social media users. The holidays bring a great deal of joy as well as challenges of what is shareable on social media. And this site takes care of all those concerns for users as well as eliminating storage issues, which we all encounter frequently in the digital age." End quote. So if you want to go back and check FAMICITY out again, you can do that over at famicity.com. And finally, some other Genealogy Gems news here is that Donna Moody's Irish Guide series has proven so popular that we have added a third guide. It's Land, Tax, and Estate Records in Ireland. You've probably heard about these records. They're really super important because the census records are missing. But where do you start? How do you work with these? It can be a little bit daunting. This guide explains how and why Griffith's valuation was done and how to use it, the most information about your family. After Griffith's valuation, the revision books allow you to follow the land, in some cases, all the way to the 1970s, possibly identifying cousins that are still living on the land today. So this quick reference guide includes explanations of all the columns that you're going to find in Griffith's valuation, rules under which Griffith's valuation was done, tips for using it to find your family, and then how to use the revision books to identify life events. She covers the tithe allotment, which is an earlier tax list, and then she digs into landed estate courts and estate records. Even more challenging to find and to use, but Donna guides you through the whole thing. We already opened up the pre-ordering. Shipping is going to happen here within the week. I think we talked about December 11th was going to be our ship date. That's what we're shooting for. And then you will see the digital download version of this guide in our store. So that's over at genealogygems.com. I love having experts like these to put these guides together. You know, the truth is you can't be an expert in everything, and I wouldn't even begin to pretend to be an expert in Irish research. But Donna is really a proven expert who goes over there constantly and does research over in Ireland. And to have her putting all of her brain just kind of loaded into these guides is really terrific. We're very proud to have her here. All right, well, that's our latest news and what's new here at Genealogy Gems. So let's get on over to the mailbox and find out what you've got to say. And that's right after this. You've probably found wonderful old photos and documents in your research, but that's not exactly exciting stuff to your kids and your grandkids. The truth is, the non-genealogists in our families aren't captivated by the same things we are, but you can change all that with Animoto.com. Start creating fabulous videos about your family history that they won't be able to resist. And you don't have to have any special skills. With Animoto, you drag and drop your files in, like photos and even video clips. Pick from their professional styles and huge music catalog, and voila, you've got an awesome video. I've made dozens of these, and my family loves them. Hey, my grandson didn't mention the Legos that I gave him for his birthday, but he did thank me for the video that I made. You've got to try this out for yourself. Visit Animoto.com. MyHeritage.com is your home for global genealogy research. The site boasts the most geographically diverse membership in the world, with a strong presence in many European countries. Search for cousin connections worldwide among more than 86 million people on a site that operates in over 40 languages. Powerful proprietary search technologies at MyHeritage.com dig deeper and with greater accuracy into billions of historical records and online trees. This is the only major genealogy website that offers automated hinting on possible matches in digitized historical newspapers. And now, MyHeritage offers autosomal DNA testing too. They're jumpstarting their DNA database by inviting members to upload their own and by sponsoring tests in certain parts of the world. I'm looking forward to the geographical diversity I anticipate from their DNA data. So head on over to myheritage.com and expand your global genealogy research. That's myheritage.com.
Bring me a letter from my old hometown. One with some jokes from my old pal Jim Brown. Bring me a letter from that girl of mine, saying that she's longing for me all the time. Bring me a letter from my proud old dad, who knows that we are winning, and I bet he's glad. But more than any other, a line from my old mother. Bring me a letter from my hometown.
We get some great comments on the Genealogy Gems blog, and every now and then it's fun to share some of them with you. A while back, we published a post. It was called Finding Widows, Disappearing Husbands, and Lost Relatives. So many of you posted comments about your own missing relatives and how you've tracked them down. So I want to share a few of these with you now. Marianne says, check out city directories. One in Cleveland, Ohio, has my great-grandmother living on the west side of the city as a widow and her husband living on the east side. In the next year, they're back together at the same west side address. And of course, Marianne, you're absolutely right, because city directories give us that look of where people are located, much like the census, but sometimes year to year to year. Nothing like them. Love it. Nancy says, I was aware that my great-grandfather abandoned my great-grandmother and grandmother. I found her in the San Francisco directory listed as a widow and her husband right under her as a barkeep. I found that kind of funny. I did find a notice in the newspaper granting her a divorce with custody of the child and a $15 a month alimony. I wonder if she ever collected. Not likely, she says. And Sheila says, I lost track of a brother of two of my direct line ancestors around 1885 in North Carolina. I found his wife in North Carolina near her family in wills, deeds, census, and death records through her death in 1919, sometimes married, sometimes widowed. A search on FamilySearch.org brought up census records on a man fitting his profile in Florida in 1900, 1910, and 1920, married to another woman. I tracked them in Ancestry.com city directories in several Florida cities, and I found her in the 1930 census still in Florida. I found both Florida death records. His birthplace was unknown, but hers was a misspelled version of his North Carolina county of origin. Looking at the 1900 and 1910 census records of the wives showed that neither had ever had a child, which makes me think it was the same man who couldn't father children. A random conversation with a relative at a family reunion a few years ago resulted in the story that this brother went out to feed the livestock one morning and just disappeared. No one in the family heard from him for over 20 years until my 2 times great-grandparents went to Florida to visit a son in the early 1900s and spotted him at the railroad station as they prepared to return home. The brothers spoke there, but no one knows if they ever had contact again. The story leads me to believe I'm on the right track for this collateral ancestor. Wow, what a story, Sheila. And Richard says, I have a great-grandmother listed as widowed in 1915 through 1918 Philadelphia directories. Then the 1920 census has a W for widow crossed out and an M for married replacing it. I guess she didn't want to lie to the government. I've heard it called, quote, grass widow, as in the grass is greener elsewhere. Okay, so I had to go Google grass widow. I have not heard this term before. And yeah, it popped right up. Grass widow, it says a discarded mistress, or a woman who has an illegitimate child, or a woman whose husband is temporarily away from her, or a woman divorced or separated from her husband. You learn something new every day. Oh, and Joe commented on the Google Books article that we featured in the newsletter last week. It's a great success story and actually a very cautionary tale for keeping your files backed up. She says, Lisa, you've done it again. Oh boy, here we go. I don't know what I did. Let's find out. I've been really discouraged lately because I lost my hard drive along with all my Legacy 9 files and work. I haven't even been looking at my matches, and I've ignored your post for a week or more. Then tonight, I thought I'd see what it was all about. I hit the googlebooks.com link that you had, typed in my great-grandfather's name, and up jumped a patent listing in the official Gazette of the United States Patent Office. Thank you for doing what you do. Joe, oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's awesome. You'd be surprised at how many of our ancestors are mentioned in patent applications. It really is astonishing. And yes, as Joe says, you can search for them on Google, even in a special section of Google called Google Patents. Now, Google Patents is also a great place to learn about the household items and inventions that really shaped your ancestors' lives. So you can learn more about using Google Patents and other really fabulous and free Google tools for the family historian in my book, The Genealogist Google Toolbox. Well, thank you so much to Joe and Richard and Sheila and Nancy and Marianne. I love to hear from all of you. You can reach out to me just like they did at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. And you can also leave a voicemail. We may play it here on the show. 925-272-4021.
Bring me a letter from my proud old dad, who knows that we are winning, and I'll bet he's glad. But more than any other, a line from my old mother. Bring me a letter from my hometown.
We all have our favorite TV shows, and I never miss Shark Tank. And I've even ordered some of the products that you see there on the show. But I was really thrilled when my daughter Vienna gave me a Love Pop card for my birthday this year. But Love Pops aren't really just a greeting card. They are unforgettable gifts that you send in an envelope. Each one is precision laser cut. They're hand assembled. I mean, they'd have to be. They're so intricate. And they are designed to utterly surprise and delight. I'm pretty sure I squealed when I opened mine. And I think that's what Love Pops are all about. Creating a moment of connection between you and the people that you care about. And I'm all about the things that bring families together and deliver joy. And these cards really do. They are perfect for sharing the joy of the holiday season with your family and your friends. And lucky me, they sent me some in the mail the other day. And these are absolutely incredible. There's the Snow White Owl. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to send this to my dad and his wife because they have this Snow White German Shepherd, and they're going to swoon over this card. There's the Gingerbread House. That one is definitely going to Davy, Joey, and Emily, my grandchildren. And knowing them, this adorable little gingerbread house that pops up in the middle of the card is probably going to end up with Lego men in it, and there's room for them in there. So they're going to have fun playing with the card. And my absolute favorite, although I have to say it's hard to say favorite because they're all favorites, it is this Christmas village scene. And I'm not sure I can bear to give this one away, but I do think I know who the perfect person is who would love these brightly colored turn-of-the-century little buildings that they pop up around the big Christmas tree in the center of town, right in the middle of your card. Even if your holiday cards are in the mail already, these Love Pop cards make perfect gifts. And I'm stocking up on Love Pops that I'm going to be able to use all year round for all the family special occasions. And I'm going to do that because you can unlock special pricing right now for 5 or more cards. And you can get free shipping on any order. You can do this by going to lovepop.com/gems and check out the show notes because you want to see photographs of these amazing cards. They really are truly gems, and I never say that lightly. So head to lovepop.com/gems, unlock that special pricing for 5 or more cards, and you can get the free shipping on any order. That's lovepop.com/gems. I want to take just a minute here on the show to bring Sunny Morton to the microphone here in the podcast to talk a little bit about a new project that she's been working on and that you guys, I know, are going to enjoy. Hi, Sunny.
Hello.
You have a terrific book about telling your story and helping people kind of pull out their stories. You have created a new premium video for us on this topic of kind of collecting our own story. Why, as genealogists, do we need a book like this? Why do we need to stop all this wonderful ancestor search and work on our own story?
You know, you would think we wouldn't need to stop and answer that, but I think that as fascinated as we are by our ancestors' stories, we already know our own stories. There's no mystery to solve there. And sometimes we're bored by them. Sometimes we don't remember them very well. Sometimes we don't want to go back and remember them. We have lots of different reasons that we hit a brick wall, or maybe several brick walls, when it comes to compiling our own memories into stories that our descendants are going to want to read.
And sometimes that's the hardest one to do. It's like you have a whole new kind of brick wall in front of you, don't you?
You really do.
What kind of challenges do people face when they attempt to kind of take a moment and tell their own story, which it really is the family history of the future?
It really is. So one challenge that I think all of us have is, how do I turn my memory fragments into a story? There's a difference between a memory and a story. A memory I think of as just a fragment of some kind, a little bit or piece, maybe an image of something that we did, a place we were, or the smell or sound or the taste of something. Or sometimes it's a sense of who a person was like that we knew in the past. We just have the sense of them. I think what turns it into a story that then has meaning for other people is whatever meaning we can assign it ourselves. So it's not just this fragment, but it's put into a complete context of what else was going on around us, what can we bring to the table from our own memories, from our family's memories, from our research, what was really going on, and why that memory ended up being something that stuck. It's really how you thread it all back together into the present.
You know, and as you're describing that, I'm thinking about grandparents, people who told us stories, and wouldn't we love to know that deeper context? Wouldn't we love if we'd had the opportunity to go back and ask more about it? We certainly would have. I imagine our descendants will feel the same.
I think so too, because what we end up seeing from them are all those same kinds of fragments. We just see the printed ones or the filmed ones or the photographic ones that survive. We don't necessarily get the memories, the things that are rich with sensory information. So I have an example for you.
Oh, great.
I have these little fragmentary memories of attending my great-grandmother's funeral in Lynn Creek, Missouri. I was a kid. It was hot. It was humid. There were lots of mosquitoes. I remember thinking that the state was mispronounced. It shouldn't be Missouri. It should be misery because it was just that time of year, and anyone who's lived there understands. I remember that we visited an older woman named Madeline. I remember she had a long driveway and a really tiny old house. We stayed in a little hotel with wood paneling, and we went to a big luncheon buffet at a little country restaurant with lots of people I didn't know. There weren't very many kids there or anything for me to do. And then later on, after everything else was over, I remember going back to that little tiny hotel and my grandma staying up late and sitting on the bed with my mother and some other relatives. And my grandmother, who had just buried her mother, was laughing. So those are my memories. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of memories. I've spent a lot of time trying to bring those back. But what did all of that mean? And if I were to try to turn those memory fragments into a story, I think I would look at two different things. Now that I've got all those memories out in front of me, I would look at those memories and say, wow, I really was looking at this from a child's point of view. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a grown-up perspective on why someone would be laughing, and why we were in this place. This was my mom's ancestral home, a place that she loved to come to, but it was totally foreign to me. I can now recognize that it's a place that had a lot of rural poverty that sort of struck me uncomfortably, a place where I didn't know anyone. I had no memories, no associations. I couldn't understand why my grandmother was laughing. So I think trying to put that together realize that it was a child's perspective and understanding how a child might experience an event like that so differently than my mother or her mother would experience it. Later on, asking my mom about that experience, she shared some of her own very poignant memories of coming back to Missouri and having that be like a center of the world for her emotionally. And I learned that my grandmother had spent many years going back and forth from her home in Colorado to take care of her mother in California, and that it had taken a tremendous emotional toll on herself and her marriage. Mm-hmm. So yes, she missed her mother, but after the funeral, there was finally some time to relax with her daughters and to start to recover a sense of laughter and normalcy again. With great respect for her grief, she was now in a very different place.
How interesting to explore your own memory and have that lead to better, more in-depth interviews and conversations with your mom, with other people in your family, and that it brings to light the truth of kind of that experience when so often we get a little caught interpreting, I think, what we find, but interpreting it with our own 21st century, current day thoughts and ideas, or the thoughts and ideas of the child at that time, when in reality it had a whole nother kind of meaning to it. I just love the fact that it all creates perspective.
Yes.
It gives us a deeper perspective and a richer story that's more complete. And that has got to be more satisfying. That's really, I know, what this premium video is designed to do for each person listening. And every single person listening has those kinds of rich stories and stories that have yet to be explored. Tell us real quickly before I let you go, kind of what they're going to learn in the video.
So in the video, we're going to talk about some of these barriers that keep us, and this was just one of them. There's so many questions I think we have when we start to explore our own memories. What do I do with those memories that seem so faded? What do I do with the memories that are painful or private? How do I sort things out? And what do I have permission to say? Whose privacy might I be violating by talking about such and such an experience? Because certainly your own memories intersect with the lives of other people, either who may be living or who may have living relatives that might be hurt by what you might say. How can you understand the process of remembering? I think it's fascinating to understand the way that I encoded those memories as a child. When I pull them back out again, they're a child's memories. And I talk about that in the video of understanding why they're a child's memories instead of how I would understand it today. And it has to do with how those memories were stored and processed. So there's a lot in there that will really help you. When I hear from people who have heard this class, the big thing they say is, okay, now I've got what I need. They don't always tell me what their roadblock was, but there's this huge sense of relief and trajectory. Like, okay, now I know how I'm going to start writing my life stories. Now I've been able to think about which stories I want to tell. I'm excited about it. I know how I'm going to dredge up these old memories and flesh them all back out again. I know who I'm going to share it with, and I know it's going to be an amazing experience.
And I've sat through this class, and I know I saw that in people's eyes. I heard that in people milling around and talking afterwards. And the most important thing is you get to be in control of what you tackle. Some people have some very difficult memories and things, and so nobody's telling you, you have to do this, you have to do that. But what you walk away with are the tools so you can dig in any way, in any place where you're ready to do that. And the thing is, here at this gift-giving time of the year, I can't think of a better gift that you can give yourself and that you could give your current family and your future family. It's just tremendous. So we are talking about the video, the premium video, how to share your life stories more meaningfully. And that's exactly the tools that Sonny's going to give you. If you're a premium member, you just sign in the website and you can start watching that right away. And if you're not, this might be a wonderful gift to give yourself. Become a member and watch this video. I think it will change things for you in a really positive way. Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you.
As I travel the world talking about genealogy, folks are always stopping me and asking for my advice on organizing and securing their family history research. And my standard answer is plant your family tree in your own backyard and share branches online. Planting your tree in your own backyard, it means keeping one master family tree in a software file right there on your own computer. That gives you ownership, control of privacy and security, and one central place to organize everything that you learn about your family. And of course, my software of choice and the one that I use is Roots Magic. I find that its tree building tools are second to none. And with Roots Magic Web Hints, you can see what record hints are available on FamilySearch, Find My Past, and MyHeritage. And now you have the ability to synchronize your Roots Magic database with your Ancestry tree and get those Ancestry.com web hints right there inside of Roots Magic. These are features that are really critical and they're exclusive to Roots Magic. So plant your tree today in Roots Magic and watch it grow. Get started at rootsmagic.com. Okay, have you visited backblaze.com/Lisa yet? If you don't have cloud backup for your computer yet, everything on it is vulnerable to loss. Your pictures, your master genealogy database, files for work, the everyday business of your household. Losing all of that at once is as devastating as it sounds. That's why I did my homework and I found a cloud-based backup service provider. I chose Backblaze. It runs in the background 24/7, automatically saving copies of everything, including my precious video files. Did you know that some of the other leading services actually skip your video files when they do the backup? Hello, not good. And Backblaze is so easy to use. I love their free app that allows me to access all my files if I need to from my smartphone or my tablet. Most importantly, the service is totally affordable for real people. It's just $5 a month. So don't wait to ensure that all your files are safe. Do it now. Back them up like I do with Backblaze. Head over to backblaze.com/Lisa and get that $5 a month deal. Check it out for yourself. You could even do a free trial. That's backblaze.com/Lisa.
As evidence of its now proven usefulness in genealogy research, the genetic genealogy industry is growing at a fast pace. Ancestry.com has amassed the largest database, now boasting over 6 million people tested, and is growing at breakneck speeds, having doubled the size of its database in 2017. Hello, Genealogy Gems podcast listeners. This is Diahan Southard, your DNA guide. As the databases grow larger and our genealogy finds become more frequent, we can't ignore that this kind of data, the correlated genetic and genealogical data, amassed by these companies has great value. In November, MyHeritage announced an effort by their scientific team to, quote, study the relationship between genetics and behavior, personal characteristics, and culture, end quote. These kinds of studies are not new, as 23andMe is in open, hot pursuit of the connections between genetics and our health, and they always have been. All of our genetic genealogy companies are involved in research on one level or another, and every person who swabs or spits has the opportunity to participate in research projects, either research projects held internally with the company or research projects through other companies. If you want to read up on the consent policies at each company, see the link in the show notes. At the time of testing, you have the option to opt in or opt out of this research and the ability to alter that decision at any time after you test by accessing your settings. According to an article in Fast Company, it seems that we as a community are actually very interested in helping with research, as 23andMe reports an over 80% opt-in to research rate among their customers. All of our genetic genealogy companies realize that you might want to do more with your data than just look for your ancestors. This year, FamilyTree DNA has partnered with VitaGene in an effort to provide insight into your health via your genetic genealogy test results. Of course, 23andMe is a leader in health testing when we look at our top genetic genealogy companies. This year, 23andMe finally succeeded in passing several of their health tests through the FDA, a huge leap forward in their efforts to provide health testing directly to U.S. consumers. While health testing has certainly seen an explosion of interest this year, it's not the only way that our companies are using the data they have collected. Ancestry DNA took the DNA and pedigree charts of 2 million customers who consented to research and are using some really fancy science to provide amazing insight into our recent ancestral past with the creation of their genetic communities. These genetic communities enhance our understanding of our heritage by showing us where our ancestors may have been between 1750 and 1850. It's the genealogical sweet spot that most of us are trying to fill in. And I've got some breaking news for you. FamilyTree DNA just started a consumer awareness campaign to reinforce the message that they will never sell your genetic data. But that's an important topic we'll definitely want to talk about in a future episode, so stay tuned. Living DNA, a relative newcomer to the genetic genealogy arena, announced in October of 2017 their intention to use their database to help create a one-world family tree. To do so, they're collecting samples from all over the world, specifically those whose 4 grandparents lived in close proximity to each other. Along with this announcement, Living DNA is allowing individuals who have results from other companies and want to help this project to transfer into their database. So it seems that with growing databases come growing options, whether to opt into research, to pursue health information from your DNA test results, or to help build global databases for health or genealogy purposes. Recognizing the growing appeal to non-genealogists as well, Ancestry DNA added to their list of options the ability to opt out of the match page. And there are rumors that Living DNA will soon be adding the option to opt in to matching. They currently don't have a cousin matching feature as part of their offering. It can be tricky to keep up with all that goes on, but be sure we here at Genealogy Gems are doing our best to keep you up to date with any news that might help you make better decisions about your genealogy and ultimately better equipped to find your ancestors. So stay tuned right here at Genealogy Gems for all of your DNA news. From me, your DNA guide, Diahan Southard.
Diahan mentioned in passing that Ancestry DNA customers can now opt out of being included in matching. But what does this mean for us as genealogists? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Diahan takes on these questions in Genealogy Gems Premium Podcast Episode 154, and it's going to be available in just a couple of weeks, a little bit later this month, to all of our premium members. Also in that episode, I'm going to share a really big genealogical discovery from my mother-in-law's tiny address book, plus more ways that you can find your own relatives' addresses. And speaking of premium member perks, the advantages of being a subscriber to the Genealogy Gems Premium membership is that if you are a premium member, you can now access my brand new half-hour premium video. It's called Your Guide to Cloud Backup, and it answers crucial questions for everyone who uses a computer or a mobile device. Things like, what is cloud backup? Why should I use cloud backup? How does it work? Is it safe? What should I look for when I'm selecting a cloud backup service? And I, of course, will share with you my personal cloud backup choice. We had this video available just for about 1 week for free. I hope you caught it if you aren't a member yet, but don't worry because it is part of the premium video collection, which is ever growing. And we've got some new videos coming down the pipeline here very soon. So stay tuned for that. Your stories are the family history of your descendants. That's something that you've heard me say here on the podcast before. I believe that to be the family historian in your own clan is really an honored role. But in order to fulfill that role effectively, we must include all stories, including your own. Well, remember Margaret Linford, who wrote the wonderful story about saving the family history research of Bob White? I shared that with you in Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 208. Margaret attended BYU on an academic scholarship, and she's a professional genealogist. She specializes in the Mid-South region of the U.S., and she has over 20,000 hours of research experience, and she's contributed to the family histories of notable Americans as a research consultant for the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. She helped organize the Smith County Genealogical Society in 2011, and she's been busy currently serving as the president of that organization and as a board member of the Smith County Historical Society. Margaret and her husband Blair have 3 daughters, and they enjoy teaching them about their heritage as well. Well, I've enjoyed her writing so much that I asked Margaret about one of her stories, about how she became a genealogist. It's a question many of us get at some point. Well, I'm anxious for you to get to know Margaret because she's got some wonderful gems to share with you, and I've asked her to start putting some together for the coming months here on the podcast. But right now, I'd like to share Margaret's story with you, and I hope that it will inspire you to share your own stories. I can remember as a little girl walking in after school. The aroma of freshly baked biscuits or bread always filled the air and enveloped anyone who walked through the door. The house was spotless. The bed linens were crisp. This was the home of my Grandma Overbay. She was completely devoted to her family. Her home was a refuge for many when they found themselves struggling through life. No one was turned away, and she made sure that those who entered her house always felt welcome. My answer to the question, what made me a genealogist, can be traced back to this one woman and my countless experiences with her. I remember many lazy summer evenings on the porch, listening to stories of her childhood, accompanied by the rhythmic sound of crickets. Through Grandma's stories, I was transported back in time. In my mind's eye, I could see her as a little girl picking blackberries on a mountaintop and following the local doctor from house to house as he treated patients. She lived in a small community where it was a common practice in that time for doctors to make house calls. And she had an insatiable curiosity which prompted those tag-along visits. I imagine it was on one of those house calls that she came to love hearing stories. I loved being able to envision her as a carefree young girl, being taught life lessons as she served as an unofficial intern to this kind community doctor. She painted pictures on the canvas of my mind and introduced me to my ancestors. With each story she told, she was downloading some of her memories into the brains of her children and her grandchildren. This was one of the greatest gifts anyone has ever given me, the gift of her time and her stories. I don't think my grandma realized how important her stories would be to creating a strong family narrative, but her legacy lives on thanks to the time that she invested in a budding family genealogist. I feel fortunate to be the granddaughter of this master storyteller. She created characters and made my ancestors come to life. They had traveled the paths of life that I was just beginning and had much wisdom to pass down to me. My grandma was deliberate in her attempts to transmit that wisdom. Life lessons were always embedded within the stories. She often told a story that was related to her by her father. He had elected to disregard some of his mother's wise counsel with regard to someone he wanted to date. He later learned that his mother truly knew what was best, and he could have been spared an agonizing experience if he had chosen to heed her counsel. This theme of honoring father and mother was woven into many of her stories. I learned from her that everyone has something to teach us. If we choose to take time and listen to the people we encounter on a day-to-day basis, we can learn something from their experiences. She believed in devoting her full attention to people. I can remember numerous occasions when she would stop everything she was doing to lend an ear to someone who needed to talk. In these moments, she was offering her friendship and genuine concern for those who confided in her. She was a listener, always sifting through the seemingly mundane to discover bits of wisdom and lessons that otherwise she may never have had the opportunity to learn. She taught me, in word and by example, that life can be enriched as we take time to hear each other's stories. Through the successes and disappointments of my ancestors, they left their children and grandchildren pearls of wisdom. And these pearls are strung together as we remember stories of the past. The greatest heirloom I ever inherited was this string of pearls given to me, one story at a time. 6 years ago, when I was asked to begin writing a bi-weekly column for my hometown paper, this heirloom is what prompted me to christen it String of Pearls. There is an even deeper meaning tucked into the name for me. I share the name Margaret with my grandmother and great-grandmother. I grew up often resenting being given such an old name. As I have matured, I have come to love it. To my delight, I have found that the name, which means pearl, has been used for many generations in my family. I am but one in a long string of pearls. There are people like my grandma within each family. They are the keepers of the family stories. They seem to have a special calling to pass along the wisdom and knowledge of previous generations. There's an old proverb that says, "You live as long as you are remembered." We are remembered as long as our stories are told, and it starts with telling your story. What is it that ignites the spark within someone's heart to possess a love of family history, to take their rightful place as the keeper of the stories? What motivates certain individuals to be so dedicated to searching out their ancestors? What made my grandma so intent on transmitting these family stories to future generations? I never had the opportunity to ask her that question. I had no way of knowing that her presence would be snatched away so soon. I often find myself repeating the phrase, if I had only asked. Perhaps you have, upon occasion, had the same thought with regard to your own family members. Though we may have some regrets about unanswered questions, it's never too late for us as family historians to start answering these questions ourselves. What inspired you to delve into your family's history? Was it a grandparent, a photograph, or a family mystery that you wanted to solve? What prompted you to first seek out your ancestors? As I answered these questions for myself, I was reminded of the emotional connection to my grandma. A flood of memories came back to me, serving to remind me that these family ties last long after death. Our ancestors live on through us and through the stories they left behind. The image of my grandma sharing her stories on that front porch will be the image that comes to mind the next time that someone asked me what made me a genealogist. In recalling my own genealogy origins, I have a renewed commitment to preserve these stories and emotional connections for my own children and future grandchildren. I made a startling discovery as I evaluated my role in transmitting the family history. I recognized that my children are well acquainted with stories of their grandparents and their great-grandparents, but know little of the early life experiences of their own mother and father. I've become so focused on telling them stories from previous generations that I have entirely neglected to tell them my own stories. After all, it is as important to capture our own memories and experiences as it is to save our ancestors from being forgotten. I love my job. I love bringing Genealogy Gems to you. I can't believe that another year has gone by, but there is so much coming in 2018, and I'm very excited to say that includes a new website. Now, I know what you're thinking. No, don't change anything. Oh, doesn't it drive you nuts when some of your favorite websites change? But it's got to happen, because devices are changing and functionality is changing and screens and everything else. But I promise you, these changes are going to be fun. There's going to be all the same great content. And the good news is we are not fundamentally changing our menu structure at all. So while the menu is a different color, that's about it. The menu itself is going to work the same. And that's important because here on the show, I talk about, go to here, go to there on the menu. Yep, it's going to be all pretty much laid out the same way, but what you're going to find are some, I have to say, pretty exciting kind of multimedia looking pages delivering the content that we bring to you. Pictures and stories and interactivity and videos, and it is going to be the funnest genealogy playground on the web in 2018. So you have to go check it out. I don't even know what the date is going to be yet. And I hate to even tell you that this is coming because you know how things go, best laid plans. But we are so, so close. And I think that when it launches, it'll just be a happy surprise under your tree this year. And I think that you'll really, really enjoy it. My hope is also that it's going to be simpler and more visually interesting and actually visually easier to navigate. We're trying to get away from having to read everything to try to find where you're going and use imagery to guide you along the way, which I think is more fun. And actually, it's faster. I've talked about that here on the show a bit, how sometimes pictures are worth 1,000 words. And in this case, it's really true, particularly when it comes to the website. So that's coming. And remember, you can't break a website. So if you're not so sure what something does, or you see a little plus sign and you wonder, what's that? Click it. Click it and find out. Something may pop open and be a surprise for you. Another genealogy gem, if you will. And the genealogy gems around here are the lovely folks that helped me put this show together. That's Sonny Morton, our contributing editor, with additional comments by your DNA guide, Diahan Southard. Our production team is Hannah Fullerton, who did your audio editing this time around. And of course, Louise Cooke is your happiness manager. She is here answering your questions and replying to you. Isn't she awesome? You know, one of the number one replies that she gets from people is, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think a real person would reply." She's a real person, and she's here to help you. So if you ever have challenges with the podcast, with the website, anything to do with using Genealogy Gems, you get in touch with her at service@genealogygems.com, and Lacey will help you out. And I want to thank you, my wonderful listeners, for another terrific year, and a big shout out of love and kisses from Shasha to Davy and Joey and Emily. Thank you so much for listening, friend. I'll talk to you soon.